welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. Will this episode be more laid back? Probably, but I guess it makes sense considering the next episode, the next podcast, and the next main series video are coming up and they're going to be, I guess, somewhat big. Well, of course, main series video that's going to be coming up soon is the screw-up video. I'm almost finished editing it, and it's going to premiere on the 18th. I don't know if I'm going to premiere it at 12 or whatever. I don't know if I'm going to premiere at 12 or if I'm going to premiere it later in the day. I guess you guys are free to make a poll, giving a suggestion about that. But either way, that episode is going to be pretty good. I think it's going to be pretty good. It might not be the best of the year. I mean, it won't be. It won't be. I know that for a fact because I have a plan for a couple. I have plans for the next two podcasts. I do have plans for the next two, the final two of 2025. Those ones are going to be somewhat interesting. One of them was a video idea I had planned to do in previous years. I think in early 2024. I think I plan to do that. I plan to do it after the initial Pluribus Unum Silhouettes of the Past story arc. By the way, if you're new here, yes, I did a Linkara ass fucking story arc. And in that one, I did a little special thing in that one. You know, feel free to watch that if you want to. Those are the two plans for this week. You know, this video come up, and then on the 18th, we got the screw-up video that's going to be released. And the next two podcasts afterwards are going to be pretty good ones. The last one of the year is going to be that video plan idea that I had for that. And the one that's going to be next, like the one that's going to air next week, is one that is very easily shaping up to be one of my favorite ones. I don't want to give away what it is quite yet. You can get it. You have a hint just based on next week. Just based on the idea that that podcast is going to be coming out next week is the only hint you're going to get. But that did give me like a decently good. It's a very I have a because I mentioned this before, but I basically have a note/script for the podcast now. But the one for the podcast that's gonna be coming out next week is literally like 7 pages long, and I like it a lot, specifically because I guess I might get into that, and because that's gonna be a hint to the last podcast of the year. But I'll be talking a little bit about that as well in the last podcast of the year. But it is a very good one. I am very excited. I got a little bit more work to do for. That's another thing. It's a 7-page long script, and I'm not even finished with it yet. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. With that out of the way, let's get right into the news. First news story. I guess we'll do an update on Honduras because the situation in Honduras is getting way more complicated than if you remember how I said with the Honduras election, prior, during the podcast that I did on the Honduras election, I basically pointed out how the Honduras election was very clearly going to have a very troubling situation, and then it only got worse with Trump's open meddling in the election. With basically if you remember how the situation was allegedly supposed to go, was that the head of the National Election Institute, which is a member of the National Party, which is the right-wing party that is endorsed by Donald Trump, basically said that what they wanted to do was that they wanted to have the election be so confusing that no candidate could declare a victory in the ensuing week. And then that would lead to distrust in the electoral system regardless of who it was, basically forcing the West to kind of step in, and effectively they knew that they were going to be the ones who benefited the most of that interaction, so they just basically were we're just going to do that. Even alleging that the military was actively involved in the situation. And as the election results have been coming in, basically every single person has kind of reached that same conclusion. Basically, Rixi Monsada, or Moncada, I guess. I've always pronounced it Monsada, but I guess it might be pronounced Moncada. But Rixi, the candidate of the Libre Left Party, and Salvador Nasrallah of the Liberal Party have both alleged that the election was more than likely tampered with in some capacity. I think they skew a little bit in their analysis. I think Nasrallah originally, like, I think he basically has said, like, he just says that, like, Trump favored Tito Asfuera. I think he just said that, but I think he might have, like, fully go on, like, no, this is like a electoral coup. And it has gotten way worse because Xiomara Castro has basically announced that she does not have any intention of recognizing these electoral results. Like, openly declaring that these election results are null, and that she might actually be making a case to the International Criminal Court, or the International Court of Justice, to try and see if these situations can be resolved. But the military of Honduras has stated that they will not listen to her, and will actively push for a peaceful transition of power. And, sounds like those messages that were leaked by Libre were 100% valid, am I right? And look, again, this isn't even Libre lost, that sucks, whatever. It's not even that. Like, I mean, I predicted that Libre was going to lose this election. I predicted that. My prediction was that Nasrallah was going to win because it made the most sense logistically. Nasrallah was a candidate who, while definitely not in the realm of Libre, wasn't too far off that he could have potentially gotten voters from both people who hated Libre and people who liked Libre. He was the candidate that was consistently polling the highest, and Tito Asfuera was literally the candidate that was polling the worst of all the three major candidates. And like, if Donald Trump literally didn't announce, like, the week before the election, I am actively supporting and endorsing Asfuera, and I'm going to legally release the illegal narco-terrorists that we have. Like, if he didn't do that, maybe I would have bought it, but it's like, it's just objectively like, oh, so, like, you just rigged the election. And everybody's pointing out, like, this is a bad situation, because if the situation just continues, it's just going to lead to more problems, because pretty soon Donald Trump's going to start rigging other elections in Latin America that are going to be coming up, including but not limited to the Colombian election. We'll have to wait and see how the situation develops, but speaking of developing, a situation has developed in Bolivia, and it is the fact that Luis Arce has been arrested. Now, Luis Arce was allegedly arrested for charges of, quote-unquote, enabling illicit enrichment by allegedly allowing state funds earmarked for indigenous communities to be transferred into government officials' personal accounts. And a lot of people have been making some very interesting assumptions off of this news. And one of the big things that I saw on Twitter was like, basically, it was like a tweet, and it's like, the lesson here for leftists is to keep winning elections, because if you don't, everything is going to immediately go to shit. Like, basically trying to do that to, like, I guess be a doomerist or whatever. But it's like, I mean, me personally, I think the lesson is for the left to unite together and not argue against each other. I mean, I'm just saying. Literally, the only reason why the left is not currently in office in Bolivia right now is because hero worship of a pedophile. Like, that's literally what happened. Luis Arce was running a perfectly fine government, but then Evo Morales showed up out of nowhere and was just like, I want to be president again. And then now Luis Arce is getting arrested by the right-wing government. And it's also another example of right-wing hypocrisy, because these are the same people who are crying and pissing themselves about, like, how dare you arrest Janine Áñez? And now they're literally doing the same thing, much in the same way how Donald Trump does the whole, like, these evil lefty, like, whatever, like, these evil socialist Democrats are doing some disgusting things that are hurting the, whatever, like, judicial, whatever, like the weaponization of our judicial system. And then all of a sudden, Trump is literally doing the exact same thing that he accused the Democrats of doing. It's just very... Yeah, I mean, there's not much else I could really say. I mean, like, I was basically vindicated I was vindicated again. Pluribus Unum proven right yet again award? Because, yeah, literally, this is the thing. I was one of the people who, from day one, was saying all this, and then for some reason, no one was listening to me. And even recently, no one was listening to me, because, like, the day after the election, like the first round of the Bolivian election, all of a sudden everybody was like, oh, how dare they not let Evo Morales run? It's like, literally, he wasn't legally allowed to run, but, you know, like he was literally just not even legally allowed to run, even just at that point, but like whatever. But anyways, let's move on to another Latin American country, Mexico. And this is an interesting thing that I wanted to just do a little analysis of. And it's a headline about how daily killings in Mexico have dropped 37% under Claudia Sheinbaum. That sounds like a pretty good thing. But wait, there's more. The next words say, but experts say the data is problematic. Let's get into it. The average number of daily killings per month in Mexico has dropped by 37% since Claudia Sheinbaum took office last year, according to new government figures, but security analysis cautioned that homicide data may not indicate improved national security. Now, where is the controversy and where's the debacle in this situation? Well, they explain that while murders have dropped like 20%, that it doesn't factor things like forced disappearances, which are more than likely murders, and those have increased in Mexico by 15%. Like, my slight question is just like, how does this factor? Okay. So let's just say it. Let's just go. Let's just do this. So like 20% drop in murder rate. Okay, it says on here. But then we have the rise in forced disappearances. Is the point that like we then subtract the 15 from the 20? Is that like the way you would read that chart? I'm asking in like a legitimate sense, because like these like, first of all, these two data points are statistically different for a reason. Obviously, there obviously is a reason why these two things are differently, because one, not every single forced disappearance is a murder, and not every single murder is a forced disappearance. These two things are like distinct in the statistics for a reason, right? So would we not then have to factor previous forced disappearances also with the murder rate? And then also, like it seems like another thing where it's like, it seems convenient that we're doing this arithmetic here, but like not in any other instances. Like, for example, like if a gay guy murders another gay guy, does that count as a hate crime statistic? No. But like, even like factoring that in, is like, does that just mean like, oh, there was like a 5% drop in crime, or like a 5% drop in murder? If that's the case, then it's like, I mean, that's still kind of a W. I mean, it might just be a slightly more nuanced W, but like, still seems like a W. Again, that is assuming that that's how you would read that chart in that sense. Because again, I'm not sure. Like, again, these are two distinct data points for a reason. So I don't get why we're magically now saying like, oh, we have to actually factor these two things together as one thing. It's like, why? And then you remember, oh yeah, Claudia Sheinbaum was a socialist. That's why. Anyways, the next story is talking about the government-sanctioned lynchings that have happened in ICE detention centers. 23 people have died in ICE detention centers this year. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this news story up is not just because of the sad, troubling statistics of the fact that 23 people have died in, like, again, the fact of the matter is, if, one should have been enough, much the same way with the death penalty. Like, one false death penalty, like, murder should have been, like, enough to, like, end it, but seems that people seem to have a different interpretation. But one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this up is also because I neglected to mention, like, a news story that I was going to mention at one point, but I just didn't. And it's a really fucked up story. It's about how Chao Fengji, a Chinese immigrant, was found dead in an ICE detention center. And this is the weird part. He was found dead in an ICE detention center with his hands and feet tied behind him with a cloth around his neck. Which, like, he was hog-tied. And it's just like, the weird thing is that everybody keeps saying it's a suicide, when it's just like, call it a hunch. But I'm pretty sure you need your hands to tie the rope around your neck. So him having his hands tied behind him and his legs tied behind him, that don't make no sense if he hung himself. That don't make no sense. And basically, it's basically just like a situation like, no. There have been other situations like this that have happened. It's like, are you sure about that? Are you sure? This doesn't seem right. And the ICE people, I don't trust them. Like, I do not believe a single word that any ICE agent says. They're all fucking snakes and subhuman filth. I don't believe a single fucking thing that they say. I literally made a podcast where I read over a ton of stories of American citizens that have been detained by ICE who have literally just had themselves, like, they've just openly been lied about. Like, ICE agents will literally be like, oh, this guy told me that he was actually an illegal immigrant. It's like, why in the ever-living hell would he say that? That makes literally zero sense. This person is a natural-born American citizen that you illegally detained. Why in the hell would he lie to you and say that he was a non-citizen? Also, he's literally saying on news after he got released that he did not say any of that and you're a fucking liar. Like, they're claiming, like, oh, no, we tried to, like, I mean, I don't believe a single, I believe nothing of their story. Not a single thing. I don't believe this guy killed himself. I don't believe that they tried to save him. I don't believe they said that they needed, like, they say, like, oh, well, we asked the Mandarin interpreter if he had any medical issues, and he said no. It's like, I don't believe that at all. You literally deport people who have cancer and are dying. I don't believe a single fucking goddamn word any of you fucking pigs have to say. And they know they're pigs, they know they're filth, they know they are subhuman, because if they genuinely believe that what they were doing was right, they wouldn't wear masks. Even the fucking Nazis didn't wear masks, because they believed their bullshit. They were fucked up, they had a fucked up ideology, so do ICE agents, so did the Klan, so did the IDF, but only one of them has the spine to actually stand on the beliefs that they actually hold. Like, I've seen videos of ICE agents, they get scared when people say their fucking names. There's like one ICE agent, he was driving away after harassing a woman, then she said his name, he's like, what? Like, whatever. Let's move on to the next story, which is also somewhat depressing, and it's about Jeffrey Epstein. Well, it's sort of half good, because it's the beginning of the release of some Epstein files. Granted, these are just pictures of some of the Epstein situations, but these pictures are pretty damning. You know, big shocker, Donald Trump is in a lot of these pictures. In fact, one of the pictures is literally how Jeffrey Epstein literally has Donald Trump's face on condoms. It also includes a lot of other prominent figures like Bill Gates, Richard Branson, Woody Allen, Steve Bannon, and one that is, of course, very troubling for some people is Noam Chomsky. A sad situation. We all knew Chomsky was a little, like Chomsky had associations with Epstein. You know, that was kind of already known. The Epstein Files thing was kind of like the big one was kind of like, that was kind of like people were kind of basically like, ooh, like, I mean, people are actually like, because I remember like Noam Chomsky had like that death scare like last year or the year before that, and it's like, I think a lot of people are like, we're like hoping that actually happened, because then it's like, then all this shit could have happened like after his legacy was finished, but now he's apparently still kicking around, so very unfortunate situation. The one name that is interesting to point out is Bill Clinton, because Bill Clinton has been in a couple of these photos, and it really is like just the big thing. It's the big thing that is just like so interesting, because like literally it's just like finally putting the feet to the fire. Because every single time that like Democrats on Twitter have been doing the meme where it's like, where like Trumpsters are like, oh, well, Bill Clinton, like Jeffrey Epstein, but Bill Clinton is in the Epstein Files. Like, why would you release them? And it's like, yeah, and then all the Democrats on Twitter are like, yes, we would absolutely release the Epstein Files if they had Bill Clinton in them. And it's just like, now it's like literally just like, oh yeah, they're doing that. They're literally doing it. It's like, okay, I guess game respects game. I guess I don't know. I knew that this was like this was inevitable. Like, if you actually just wanted to show like the actual unredacted Epstein files, like, yeah, Bill Clinton would be in there, obviously. No shit. That's like obvious. Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump were friends. They're all friends. It's a big club and you're not in it. Like, I mean, the only left of center person that's being implicated in the Epstein files is fucking Chomsky, and I didn't even like Chomsky to begin with. So it's like, oh no. Like, oh well, like, none of my political figures, none of my political ideologues are in the Epstein files. I don't think. I just had to do a quick check. The only person that would have been in the files that would have been a potential situation would have been Larry Lessig, but that's because Larry Lessig, like, he didn't directly take Epstein money, but like MIT, who he worked for, took Epstein money. Like, there doesn't seem to be any like coordination between the two, much less any connections in that specific thing. Like, that's basically, like, because, again, you gotta remember, Epstein wasn't just in that business. He was a banker. He was in the banking industry. He was in the financial industry. That was his primary job. And that was the whole point of the initial investigation that Donald Trump said that he was going to stop and then release all the files. And then he just stopped the investigation and then just decided to not release the files. But seems that the files are getting released anyway, so suck on that, Donald. And Donald has very quickly tried to, diminish the files release because they're like, they're photos, who cares? And then a bunch of Trump supporters are now, just trying to Google Gemini, fake images of, the Epstein files. And yeah, that seems to be a big point. I'm starting to buy the theory that, the AI-generated photos things was created specifically to prevent this situation from happening, or, to prevent people from buying, the actual fact of the situation. But, yeah, it's pretty obvious that, the Epstein files are... Again, I thought that the Epstein files were gonna get redacted. Is he just that fucking stupid that he just didn't redact them? I guess he just genuinely his supporters will believe anything he says, so he doesn't care. He didn't bother to do that. But anyways, let's move on to a last story, which is a somewhat levity story or whatever. It's a copyright story. Again, because I love copyright stories so much. Don't take that out of context. I don't love copyright. But the story is about how there's a company or whatever, a startup called Operation Bluebird, and basically their intention is that they filed a petition with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and their plan is very simple. Their petition is to get the Patent and Trademark Office to release the patent and trademark for Twitter and all the Twitter-related branding. The Twitter bird, the Twitter name, Twitter's, URL, that kind of stuff. Because, due to the fact that it is now legally X, making the case that, X legally abandoned its rights to Twitter's brand because they have no intention to resume use of it. And it also claims that X continues to commit fraud on the USPTO through the filing of false statements and declarations. As noted by the National Law Review, U.S. trademark law states that someone looking to cancel a trademark registration for abandonment must prove that its owner hasn't used the mark for 3 consecutive years, or show that the owner has discontinued its use and no longer intends to resume it. And wouldn't you know it, basically Elon Musk has changed... Okay, hold on. How long is it? 3 years? Yeah, 3 consecutive years. So they do have a legal leg to stand on next year, I think, because basically, first, 2022 is when he, basically stated that he wanted to change the site's name, and then 2023 is when he basically changed the logo, and then he changed the, bird, he changed the bird icon, and he changed the URL. Then you can still put in twitter.com and then go to the site, but, the site's URL on the bar when you bookmark it is X. And they cite a very specific post where Elon Musk says that we shall soon bid adieu to the Twitter brand and gradually all the birds, just before he basically, did that. And yeah, I really think there is a case to be made. I don't know the full extent about patent law and trademark law. My full extent on intellectual property law really stems with copyright specifically. So if there is differences between how copyright law and patent and trademark law work, then I wouldn't know. But another thing that is interesting is that allegedly Elon Musk is against all intellectual property law, period. So technically these guys shouldn't have any major concern. The only thing I'll say is do we really need to? I just gotta be real. Guys, we don't need to do this at all. Twitter is dead. Twitter is X. That is what it is. We don't need to rebrand. We don't need to bring back that particular brand to make a new social media site or whatever. Who cares? This is just brand loyalty. It's again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Twitter because of what Twitter itself represented, and now that that's just gone, there's no reason to try and rebuild that. Like, they've tried that. Like, I mean, they tried Blue Sky. Blue Sky's not doing so hot. I mean, Blue Sky's doing fine, I guess, but it's like, I have a Blue Sky account, but I don't use it. I just bookmarked that page. But yeah, there's not much else I can really say on that. There's not much really to add. So let's just move on to the main topic of this video. My endorsements for the upcoming 2026 elections. Now, if you were an oldie on this place, then you would know that I used to have a website. Well, it wasn't really a real website. It was like a Weebly page. But I just kind of stopped caring about it. I kind of stopped maintaining it, and then I just decided, I don't maintain it that well anyway, so, why not remove one thing from my plate, and I deleted it. I guess it's technically, I don't know if it's like archived, I guess? I don't know how that works, especially considering Weebly, got bought by, Square, and I don't really know how the full ins and outs on that work. But, it wasn't that notable because it's I just basically posted YouTube links to my, page, and then, but it did also have a section where it was an endorsement page where I basically listed a bunch of candidates that I quote-unquote endorsed for the upcoming elections. And, wasn't really much there. Again, I basically just included a platform playing about, hey, these guys are cool, whatever. But, I guess some people liked it because it did give at least put images of some candidates that were oh, these candidates might be cool. But do you need my particular one? You got 15 other different candidate lists that you can go on. You can go on the DSA's website and find a candidate list there. You can go to the Justice Democrats or Working Families Party or Track APAC. A ton of candidate lists that you can do. But I guess if you all yearn for the EPU candidate list, ask and ye shall receive. I'm pretty sure there's more people that I can list at some point, but I'm also sure there are people who probably I could list that aren't important. Yeah. This is just basically a bunch of candidates that I saw that I thought were pretty cool, and either you should help, or if not directly help, at least give your verbal support to, because sometimes that's all you need. Now, what are some principles that I wanted to do? Because traditionally, I was a bit more, at least somewhat lenient. I don't know how hard. I used to be, pretty hardline with the candidates that I backed, and then I became a little bit more lenient, and then a bit more hardline back. I went back to a bit more hardline, but what are the actual, what do I want for candidates in the upcoming election? What are my metrics? What are my, rules or whatever for the candidates that I would, quote-unquote, back? Well, the answers are very simple. Basically, two major things. One, left-leaning. I originally wanted to, at the very least, say that the only newcomers that I back would be I would only back newcomers that are socialists. But I also know, it's probably not going to be 100% accurate. So, maybe there are going to be some cases where I'm going to have to at least go, fine, okay, progressive Democrat, I guess you can be the guy, even though I acknowledge that progressivism isn't enough. Socialism is probably the best, and ideally I would want more socialists to run. There are just some places where they're just not running, and it's just oh well. You kind of got the generic policy planks that you would get with that kind of stuff. Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, abolish ICE, that kind of stuff. But the one issue that I'm very much extremely important on this particular cycle now is a pro-Palestinian stance. Because back in the day, there used to be quote unquote labor Zionists, people who were left-leaning on most issues, most if not all issues, except for Palestine. Progressive in every progressive except Palestine is the term. And I'm basically making it clear right here, right now. No, first of all, maybe, for the most part, the people that I want are people who have, very explicit, explicit stance on Israel. So, if they're an incumbent, back a bill that is, actually pro-Palestine. The back, block the bombs act, that kind of one. And if you're a newcomer, if you're an actual literal newcomer, completely irrelevant person that no one's heard of before, explicit pro-Palestine stance. If you're a politician who is trying to go on to a higher level, have a pro-Palestine stance and make that stance known that you're continuing that stance moving forward with your bid. Like, there's one particular bid that a lot of people are talking about specifically that has some raising, like, eyebrows, because I don't want to name him because I'm making it clear that I am not officially endorsing this particular candidate yet due to certain things. But this candidate was very pro-Israel up until very recently, and now all of a sudden he's making a vastly pro-Palestinian stance. So it's like, I can't really say for certain that candidate is trustworthy, so I'm just going to say, nah, I'm going to pass on that one. And there are other candidates that they have done some slightly pro-Palestinian things in the lower chambers, but they haven't made any stance on their issue. Like, I mean, there's one specific race, one specific candidate in one specific race that I keep going back to because it's a race that Dems have been paying attention to for a long time, and this guy, he might be good, but he's just not giving a formal stance. That's the other thing. It's like, if you're going to do that, I want a website with, like, actual stances. If not, at the very least, like, make all your stances abundantly clear in your rhetoric and online. If you don't have a website that has, like, stances yet, be very upfront about your stances publicly. All right? Who are the incumbents that I'm going to be backing? First, names are obvious. AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Summer Lee, Greg Casar, Delia Ramirez, and Ayanna Pressley. The squad, very obviously, good choices. Some prominent alumni that are still around, Khanna, Pramila, Jayapal, Mark Pocan, pretty good choices. Some progressive backbenchers, Mark DeSaulnier, Mark Takano, and James McGovern. Those are pretty good candidates too. Becca Balint and Maxwell Frost, two newcomers, are ones that I've also, backed in the past. Two incumbent senators that I'm backing are Jeff Merkley and Ed Markey. Those are the faces that have always been there. Like, at least, not always been there, but, like, have been on the site previously. Like, that you could reminisce and be like, oh yeah, those guys were on the site at one point. But why don't we take a look at some new faces, new people, faces that weren't included on the site at one point, but are now going to be included on it if there was a website to include it on. First, an oldie, Andre Carson. Now, Andre Carson is newish. Like, I mean, he's not a newish congressional person, but, like, I didn't want to back him initially because it's like he's a new Dem, like a new Democrat. But on the Palestine issue, the dude has been doing amazing. Like, he's like one of the very few, I guess obviously very few members of the U.S. House that have been very good on the Palestine issue. Obviously because he's a Muslim. Well, I mean, I guess not obviously because he's a Muslim, because, Muslims can also be bad on the Palestine issue, but, like, I'm just saying, there's obviously a kinship there that is, and Andre Carson's, like, whether it be from small things or big things, he, like, backs all the right bills on this issue, and, yeah. Also, two newer comers, like, one is a newcomer from the last cycle, and one is a newcomer for very recently, Latifah Simon and Adelita Grijalva. Two pretty good progressive, like, members of Congress that I think are pretty good, and yeah, they're doing a pretty good job. Adelita Grijalva, you may remember, one of her dad, Raul Grijalva, was at one point a person who was on my site a lot. And there was actually one sad thing that kind of happened recently about it. I was just scrolling through, like, a recent, like, vote that happened in the U.S. House, and I was just, like, scrolling through the names, and I was just like, yeah, whatever. I was just scrolling through all the names, and, like, like, oh yeah, this person voted good, this person voted good, this person voted good. But then I got to Grijalva, and I looked at Grijalva's name, and then moved on to the next person, and then stopped, and then immediately went back to Grijalva's name. Because it was like, that was the first time it hit me, like, oh yeah, that's not Raul, that's Adelita. So yeah, just to recap, the incumbents that I'm backing that are good, and you should back them if you live in their districts, are AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Summer Lee, Greg Casar, Delia Ramirez, Ayanna Pressley, Khanna, Pramila Jayapal, Mark Pocan, Andre Carson, Mark DeSaulnier, Mark Takano, James McGovern, Becca Balint, Maxwell Frost, Latifah Simon, Adelita Grijalva, Jeff Merkley, and Ed Markey. Really, none of these candidates are in any immediate danger of losing. There is a primary bid against Andre Carson and a primary bid against Ed Markey. Those are the two ones that are probably the most likely to lose a primary bid. Just because I don't think any of the other people have primary bids yet. Or if they do, significantly less endeavor. The Ed Markey one could be a thing, but the Markey momentum could come back. And Andre Carson is because, people are like, oh, he's old. So it's like, he's not that old, to be honest. But there are also some local/state elections that have some incumbents that I like. And by that, I mean 2. First, we have Kenneth Mejia for LA Controller. Yeah, that's right. Kenneth Mejia is up for re-election, and this might be a tougher bid for him because he's officially ditching the Democrat label again. So it's like, Kenneth, what are you doing, man? What are you doing, man? But hey, I mean, Kenneth, I know LA Controller isn't that big of a race for me, but if you're in LA, Kenneth Mejia is on your ballot. And in Oakland, Barbara Lee will have to run for the full term in this next election. So, yeah, endorse her. She's cool. But now let us shift from the incumbents to the challengers. And for this one, we will start with the local/state races. First, we have Janice Lewis-George running for DC mayor. She's a DSAer who is running for DC mayor. That's pretty interesting. And now we have 2 gubernatorial candidates. One is Ruwa Roman in Georgia and Mandela Barnes in Wisconsin. Ruwa is, of course, the candidate of the person who was supposed to lead a pro-Palestinian delegation in the DNC, who was snubbed by the DNC. And Mandela Barnes was the person who was snubbed by the DNC because he was black and a progressive, so they're like, we can't have that. And they snubbed his bid for Senate, even though, in retrospect, very clearly, Mandela Barnes probably should have been the one who won the Senate seat instead of people like Fetterman, but But speaking of Senate, there are a couple of people running for Senate that I think are pretty good. First, we have in Rhode Island, Connor Burbidge, who is running, again in Rhode Island. His bid is kind of seen as DOA because he's challenging an incumbent senator, and, well, it's not really turning out so well. Well, I don't know how well that's turning out for him, but it's just, yeah. Another person who is challenging an incumbent senator is Julie Gonzalez in Colorado, who is currently challenging John Hickenlooper. Her bid is seen as a significantly more serious bid because she's a prominent left-leaning person in the state. And yeah, her bid seems to be at least getting enough attention. And one person who, they're not really challenging an incumbent senator, but they're challenging, the basically anointed Democrat Party candidate in the race, Karishma Manzur, who's running in New Hampshire. She's running against Chris Pappas. But the 4 races that are seen as, the big races for Senate in the race are the Democratic primary in Minnesota and just broadly the elections in North Carolina, Michigan, and Maine. In Minnesota, I thought long and hard about this one. I had to actually do a little bit of a digging and really think about this race for a bit, but I decided to inevitably just give my support to Peggy Flanagan. I don't know why I was decent. I was decently hesitant on her for a couple of reasons. I don't really know if any of them are important, but broadly at this point now, yeah, I see her bid. She's pretty good. And the next candidate, controversial choice, the Maine Senate election with Graham Plattner. I don't care what any of you guys say. This race is important. It's not my most important race. It's not the most important one. If Graham Plattner loses and someone else wins, I can take it. I can live with that. But the fact of the matter is, Graham Plattner is doing a really good job getting not only people in the fold of in the broadly progressive sphere, but he's seemed to be a really good candidate. And even the so-called left-leaning critiques of him just don't add up. I guess I'll say his name again, Bad Banana. I had the misfortune of actually trying to watch his video like on Graham Plattner in full just to see like what are the actual arguments that he makes, and unfortunately he just fails in some of the arguments, because one of the arguments that he makes is that on one end he makes the claim that Graham Plattner is secretly trying to be like a super imperialist candidate because he's secretly trying to entice people to support him because he wants to support things like Medicare for all and free college. But then on the other end, he makes the claim that Graham Plattner is actually trying to keep those things scarce so that people are forced to sign up for the military. I think he worded it in the reverse, where he's like, Graham Plattner is actually trying to like doing like what a lot of people do and are using like free like these like programs that are in the military to force people to sign up to them. It's that whole like spiel where people are like, oh, they signed up to the military to like get good college or whatever. But that is like, but wait, Graham Plattner is literally actively trying to make these policies universal so that nobody would have to join the military in order to get these policies. But you're just saying shit to say shit, bro. But the next candidate is in the Michigan Senate race with Abdul El-Sayed, who is quite literally a very extremely good progressive socialist choice for this seat, and yeah, I would absolutely want for him to run in the seat. And lastly, we have my Senate seat, North Carolina. Now, we all know how this is going to go. It's gotta be my boy, Justin Dews. No, I'm not kidding. I think for the primary, I will vote for Justin Dews over Roy Cooper. Simply put, Justin Dews is a better candidate, and Roy Cooper is kind of really more of a general election guy. You know, he's kind of the guy he's the guy you would get excited for a general election bid. Not really guy you get excited for the primary. I mean, there are some things about him that are fine, I guess, but he also did vote to make me an evil anti-Semite by, you know, doing with the IHRA, like, thing. And I don't know, there's like a possible slight chance that maybe I could, hypothetically, vote for the Green Party candidate, because the Green Party candidate was a guy who was on the Freedom Flotilla, so it's like, that's an interesting development. But to give a quick recap, for the Senate races, Justin Dews, Abdul El-Sayed, Graham Plattner, Karishma Manzur, Peggy Flanagan, Julie Gonzalez, and Connor Burbidge. Alright, now let us move on to my endorsements for the United States House, which is a pretty decently, it's a somewhat good list, a somewhat decently long list. I wouldn't say it's that long, but it's like long enough that it's long enough. And the first thing I want to say is actually, and I don't normally do this, I don't normally like endorse candidates who aren't running, but I want to make a very explicit plea right here, right now. Byron Siccho Lopez needs to run in Illinois District 4. He's not running yet, but he needs to run in this bid. Because, sorry bro, we can't let Chewy's candidate win. And I just gotta be real, I don't know if I'll be backing Patty Garcia. I mean, she might be good, but I don't know. Her website's barren, and even though she's the de facto Democratic nominee. And if Byron says no, then I'll just back the Working Class Party candidate. But anyways, the ones who actually are running are Robert J. Peters in Illinois District 2, Kat Abu-Ghazaleh in Illinois District 9, Kina Collins in Illinois District 7. Well, these are open seats. These are candidates running in open seats. So open seats, we have Robert J. Peters in Illinois 2, Kat Abu-Ghazaleh in Illinois 9, Kina Collins in Illinois 7, Heath Howard in New Hampshire 1, Junaid Ahmed in Illinois 8, Bethany Andres Beck in Massachusetts 6, Matt Little in Minnesota 2, and Cameron Katsky in New York 12. Now, these races are kind of labeled above all the rest for the big reason that, you know, open seat means that these guys have a better chance of winning. The advantage of incumbency is, of course, you know, a big one. But, yeah, these guys do, and I mean, I'm not saying these guys have, like, easy wins. Like, Kina Collins is going up against, Sean K. Ford, who I think might be a good candidate, but I don't know. His actual most recent, His website is kind of barren. Again, it's one big problem I have. If you're going to try and be like the anointed candidate, be up for, I mean, I guess they don't have a reason to, because if they're the anointed candidate, then they don't have a reason to actually like run like an actual bid with like platform blanks and whatever. But if I was given that gracious opportunity, I'd be using that time to like make people know who I am. But I guess a lot of people just don't have that idea. And Cameron Caxey is running in like a bid that has like a million candidates, and there's a chance that could actually be beneficial to him, you know, because apparently they're all running in like similar blocks, and like he's like the one who is like an actual socialist. Now, this person is kind of running in a open blue seat, but also technically a red seat, so I'm just going to say him here. Nate Blauin in Utah 1. Like, literally, it's like both, so it's like, I guess, whatever. I guess I'll mention them here. And while I'm here, why don't we go over the rest of the red seat candidates that I'm endorsing. We have Randy Villegas in California 22. We have Randy Bryce in Wisconsin 1. We have William Lawrence in Michigan 7. We have Audrey Denny in California 1. We have Eric Deschini in Arizona 2. We have Hartzell Gray in Missouri 4. And we have Rob Rierce in Arkansas 2. These candidates are fine, but I think only of those ones, Villegas is the only one who has an actual chance, because I think that is like a swing seat. So, yeah, keep that in mind. I think I'll also say at the end, like, you know, the candidates I think would be the most beneficial to win. I mean, ideally we want them all to win, but, you know, some ones are going to have a better impact than others. But last, we have the category of primary challengers. And with those primary challengers, let's just get into them. First, we have Cori Bush in Missouri 1. Then we have Donovan McKinney in Michigan 13. We have Angela Gonzalez Torres in California 34. We have Nida Alam in North Carolina District 4. We have Dariliza Avia Chevalier in New York 13. We have Justin J. Pearson in Tennessee 9. Brad Lander in New York 10. Oliver Larkin in Florida District 23. James Lally in Nevada 3. We have Matt Conroy in Illinois 5. Joseph Ruzevich in Illinois 6. Morgan Coghill in Illinois 10. Dylan Blaha in Illinois 13. Since Illinois' primary filing was pretty early, you know, I guess I was able to go through all their ones. Ideally, I would actually like to endorse a candidate in every single seat, but, you know, that's just not going to happen. Nick Shrieta in New York 4. Jerome Whalen in Massachusetts District 1. Paige Boachman in New Hampshire 2. And Milat Kiros in Colorado 1. Each of these candidates are running against an incumbent that I don't like. Some of them are extremely egregious, you know, like Cori Bush in Missouri 1, you know, her seat only being lost because AIPAC spent $15 million in that race. Donovan McKinney running against Shadi Thanadar, a candidate who literally just shouldn't have even been in the seat initially. Angela Gonzalez Torres, of course, is the running in the seat that Kenneth Mejia ran for a decent bid. You know, Jimmy Gomez is a big target. Nida Alam also is back for vengeance against AIPAC. Brad Lander is also pushing for a united left-wing front in that race, you know, whatever. The left divided itself so much in New York 10 that, you know, Dan Goldman was able to sneak by, but, you know, now there's a united front, so there's a big chance for this one to win. And to close this out, why not I'm just going to give a brief, if I could choose the candidates to win, who would I want to win? And these are ones that say, I would accept the losing candidate winning. So for the Senate, I would want for Abdul El Sayed, Karam Plattner, and Peggy Flanagan to win, obviously. I mean, I would want, again, all of them to win, but if I had to choose, those three would definitely be top of the list, because I want the message that left-wing candidates can win in swing seats, and also AIPAC is spending tons of money on Angie Craig, so don't want AIPAC candidates to win. So that's 3. I have 9 other options I could choose. I mean, honestly, I would say Byron. I would really want him to win. Kat Abu-Ghazaleh, Cori Bush, Donovan McKinney, Nida Alam, Nate Boylan and Randy Villegas. Or, I mean, again, I'm kind of fine with all these candidates winning, but like, I guess it really just depends on like your own individual interpretation. Like, do you believe that a primary bid should have more financial backing or backing behind them, or do you believe that an open seat should have like the most backing and stuff? I usually think that open blue seats are probably the best chances for pickups, unfortunately, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't try in other areas. Again, I'm backing certain candidates for a reason. But yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say on that. Those are the candidates I guess I'm endorsing now. I don't know how much I'm going to keep going back on this topic, because it's like, I guess I'm just more focused on like other endeavors. But anyways, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the bell to find out future video when it comes out. And if you need more content from me, consider supporting me on Patreon.